At the end of a very long red-carpeted corridor, I noticed this ball of white racing towards me, and I realized it was Princess Diana. She'd rolled her train up into a ball. She had her slippers in one hand, and she was racing down this corridor, lined with windows, and the diamonds of the Spencer family tiara. What a picture of hope and happiness and love. She had it all.
Fairy tales usually end at this point with the simple phrase, "They lived happily ever after."
The Princess of Wales was a new kind of royal. A new word began to appear in the media's vocabulary, mania.
The Princess of Wales has agreed to Prince Charles's request for a divorce.
In some small way, I have been of service in return.
Princess of Wales has died in a car accident.
At Buckingham Palace, telegrams of condolence have been arriving from leaders around the world.
Princess Diana was the daughter of an earl. Her father was Lord Spencer, and he was later Viscount Althorp. They had a house on the Sandringham estate, and then when Diana's grandfather died, they moved to the family stately home, Althorp.
She wasn't obviously royalty. She was termed quite unkindly a commoner, although she was constantly rubbing shoulders with royalty because her childhood was based in part up in Sandringham, so she was often on the estate with the royals. Her sister had gone out with Prince Charles, so she knew the family well, and she was essentially circulating in those sort of quite high society circles.
The Spencer family were quite an ancient aristocratic family, and Diana was very proud of her heritage. I mean, they were actually probably grander than the royal family.
Her father doted on her, and she was really fond of her father. I mean, she used to like to dance, and she was very fond of swimming. She was always up and down to the swimming pool. She danced in the main hall and played the piano. No, she never ever said what she wanted to do. The only time I ever heard her say anything was just in fun. At her sister's wedding, she said, "My wedding will be at Westminster Abbey." And she was 18 then, I should think. But we always thought she'd be Prince Andrew.
It's almost impossible to describe to a stranger or someone who's never met Princess Diana what she was really like. What I usually say is she was as beautiful inside as she was out. But to meet her was something special. She lit up a room. She stopped traffic. And when she entered into a room, everything stopped, and all eyes were on her. I've never met another human being who had that aura, who had that charisma, the same as Princess Diana. The princess changed enormously from the time I met her, aged 18, to the very end. I was there from the beginning to the very end. And I can tell you, in the beginning, she was a shy, naive, quiet girl who knew nothing about the world.
When I joined Buckingham Palace way back in 1976, it was already rumoured that Prince of Wales would be marrying somebody like Princess Mary Astrid or Amanda Knatchbull. There were rumours that he would be marrying somebody else. Lady Diana Spencer was never there. There were always suitors around Prince Charles. He was the most eligible bachelor in the world at that time, heir to the throne of England. So he was never short of female companions. I saw him occasionally with the Queen. He'd stay at Buckingham Palace. His suite of rooms were up at the palace. He had his own valet, he had his own household, and he was very independent.
I think it gives one a very useful experience of responsibility and discipline. I think responsibility is the most important thing. Is the actual trust that's put in you to deal with other people, and the feeling that they can perhaps put their trust in you as well.
Really, He was searching for someone who could provide him with an heir and a spare. That was his main priority. He was getting old. And the Queen had said to him, "Isn't it about time you settled down, Charles? Isn't it about time you made us grandparents?" So his time was right when Lady Diana Spencer came into his vision.
How well are you coping with all the press attention? Well, as you can see, you can tell. Are you bearing up with it quite well, though? Because it must be quite a strain with all of us after you. Well, it is, naturally. You're coping with it all right, though? You seem to be doing very well. I'm still around.
In the summer of 1980, the Queen told me that a young girl was coming to stay for the weekend. "Will you meet her at the front door and show her a room?" "Of course, Your Majesty." So I'm standing in the front hallway of Balmoral Castle on the black and white tiles, waiting for this car to arrive. And out of the car comes a shy young girl that nobody knew who she was. She had one little suitcase in the back. "Is that all you've brought with you? You're here for the weekend. You have to go to hunting, shooting, you have to go to the Gillies Ball, tea parties, lunch parties, and that's all you have." She says, "Will it do?" I said, "I think we'd better take you to her room and find out." I showed her to her room. "Will you stay for a while and have a chat with me? I'm completely out of my depth," she said. So I stayed. "What time do you go down for tea?" 4 o'clock. You go down to the small drawing room. The Queen will pour you a cup of tea. "I don't like tea. I'll make sure she has coffee there waiting for you." Then what happens? I said, "When tea's cleared, you go into the drawing room, and then the Queen will pour you a gin and tonic." "I don't drink. I'll make sure there's a glass of water there for you." Then what happens? Then the Queen plays cards on her card table. "Do you play bridge?" "Yes." "Then make sure you're sat at the card table to play bridge with the Queen. That's a good way to get to know Her Majesty. Then the Queen will take the dogs into the garden. Maybe you could suggest you went for a walk with her. Also a good time to get Her Majesty's ear. That's what you want to do." This young girl was fascinated by this routine of royal households. And as I closed the door that day, I noticed the name on the door, Lady Diana Spencer.
Very generous. A very good friend.
Did you watch TV a lot? Did you have any favourite programmes?
Crossroads.
Did you share that like?
Unfortunately, yes. I wanted to teach children, and they said, "Why not come along?" So I first started off doing afternoons, and then I took over the mornings and did whole days. But I only worked 3 days a week at kindergarten, and the other 2 I looked after an American baby boy, which nobody seems to realise. Who was very special to me.
She's, got pictures of him and always asks about him when she writes.
Oh, she still writes to you?
Yes, which I think is just marvelous of her. I realize how she finds the time to do it is beyond me.
The princess changed enormously from the time I met her, aged 18, to the very end. I was there from the beginning to the very end. And I can tell you, in the beginning, she was a shy, naive, quiet girl who knew nothing about the world. She transformed. She had to. She had to survive. She was thrown in at the deep end and told to swim, and she learned quickly.
Point did you decide that this was the right lady for you? I mean,
Well, gradually. I suppose towards the end of the summer and the autumn last year, and I began to realise, what was going on in my mind and hers in particular, and all these things help. But it was a gradual business.
did you find it a very hard decision, Lady Diana?
I had a long time to think about it, because I knew the pressure was on both of us. And it wasn't a difficult decision in the end. That's what I wanted.
The most watched event in human history was her wedding day. St. Paul's Cathedral was the setting. princess was brimming with hope and love for the future. She fell in love with her prince. And there they were, a golden couple. He'd also courted her older sister, of course. Sarah had been a suitor, and on Diana's wedding day, her sister, Sarah, turned to her and said, "I thought all this was going to be mine one day, and now it's yours." There was sibling rivalry in the Spencer household. Diana wasn't meant to achieve. The fact that Diana became Princess of Wales, probably future Queen of England, was beyond the Spencer family to comprehend. It wasn't for her to achieve. The brother should have achieved. It was his estate, not Diana's. So there was always some jealousy coming from the Spencers.
Madam, how are you enjoying married life?
Highly recommend.
How do you like Balmoral as a place?
Lovely.
Have you cooked a breakfast yet?
Living and working with the Queen was far more easy than living with Diana. With the Queen, we always knew that her life ran with routines and protocols and timetables. We knew that breakfast would be 9 o'clock, lunch would be 1 o'clock, tea would be 5 o'clock, and dinner would be 8:15. It was the same every day. It's Groundhog Day at Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace is a very large house, has over 200 members of staff, and a hierarchy below stairs that you wouldn't believe, with titles that go way back into the 1600s. So you have fendersmiths, you have women of the bedchamber, you have pages of the presence, and you have pages of the back stairs. You have footmen, you have yeomen of the glass pantry and yeomen of the silver pantry. So all these titles, and people know what they're doing. They all have a specific job. I knew what I was doing at Buckingham Palace. From first thing in the morning till last thing at night, it runs like clockwork. It's never been changed. If Queen Victoria went back to Buckingham Palace tomorrow, she wouldn't be surprised by anything. It's exactly the same. Nothing changes at Buckingham Palace. Everything runs smoothly. With Diana, anything could happen. No routine, no timetables, nothing. We might skip lunch, we might be shopping, we could be doing anything during the day. So life was more exciting with Diana. But the difference between the two worlds was I always knew where I was with the Queen. I always knew where the line was in the sand. I knew when not to cross that line, and I knew to stay and bow. I was a servant, but also a friend and confidant to the Queen, but in a different way. With Diana, it was have a cup of tea with me, have a cup of coffee. Don't just stand there. I used to stand every morning waiting for the princess to come through from her dressing room. And every morning, standing there with a half a grapefruit and a cup of black coffee, I'd bow and say, "Good morning, Your Royal Highness." "For goodness sake," she'd say, "when are you going to stop doing that? It's just me and you in the room. Sit down and have a cup of coffee with me and tell me what's been going on." That was her world.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
I wish you that.
You're hacking the lamp.
I'm happy. I'm having it all this side. You look
Are you on your way shopping?
No.
So the formal princess on the world stage did everything as she should, to perfection. But behind closed doors, she was naughty. She was a naughty little girl. She loved to have fun. She loved to giggle. She loved to play practical jokes.
At that time, everybody was saying, "Good luck," and "I hope everything goes well," and "How lucky you are to be engaged to such a lovely lady." And my goodness, I was lucky enough to marry her. And we had many messages. It's amazing what ladies do when your back's turned.
What happened with the princess was she came to us at a romantic, new, fresh time into the royal family. She came to save it in a way because it was on the decline. Her involvement in the royal family boosted the royal family's popularity, lifted the royal family. There was nothing like Diana. There was Diana mania everywhere. Everybody wanted to see Princess Diana.
People were it was just like a phenomenon. I mean, people would scream when they saw Diana. It was almost like Beatlemania.
I think there was an acceptance from Diana that she was going to be one of the world's most photographed women, and she actually grew in that role and became more confident with the press. I think equally she found it both suppressing but kind of a revelation to her in that she had this ability to perhaps manipulate the media, have a bit of a laugh and joke with photographers and reporters alike, and equally use this global presence for good.
The princess's popularity gave the royal family a new lease of life. She arrived in style. And I think without her, the royal family may have foundered. They may well not be here today. She was that mainstay that kept them going.
Now you're about to marry the Prince of Wales, and one day you would, in all likelihood, be Queen. It's a tremendous change for someone, if I may say, of 19 to make all of a sudden, the transition.
It is, but I've had a small run-up to it all in the last 6 months. And next to Prince Charles and I can't go wrong. He's there with me.
Now, the royal marriage was falling apart, and I was Diana's man, placed strategically at Highgrove, placed there to keep the house in order, but also to be there for Diana, to be there as a rock, she later called me. It was difficult for me to tread the path between Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Now, Diana arrived every weekend on Friday afternoon and left every Sunday. But someone else occupied that space in between. And I learned to serve 2 royal mistresses.
I saw the relationship with Prince Charles develop. Remember, she was a shy, naive young girl and didn't know why she was really involved with the royal family. She soon found out. She was there, quite honestly, to provide Prince Charles with an heir and a spare. And if you watch that early footage of that interview in which someone asks Prince Charles, "Are you in love, sir?" and he says, "Ooh, whatever love is," look at the princess's face, because she looks at him in somewhat sort of surprise, meaning, "Don't you know if you're in love with me? I'm in love with you. Aren't you in love with me?" Well, actually, he wasn't. The princess made a fatal mistake. She fell in love with her prince. In the very beginning, she totally adored him.
I remember the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer very well because I was at Buckingham Palace. I was working for the Queen, and the Queen said to me, "You can watch it on my telly. So take the corgis for a walk in the garden and then watch the telly and you'll know when we're coming back." I was responsible for the top table, which was the bride's table, the bride and groom, and of course the Queen and Prince Philip, and the bridesmaids. So I was waiting for the bride to come back. She'd appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. And then, at the end of a very long red carpeted corridor, I noticed this ball of white racing towards me. And I realized it was Princess Diana. She'd rolled her train up into a ball, tucked it under her arm. She had her slippers in one hand, and she was racing down this corridor, lined with windows. And the diamonds of the Spencer family tiara were glinting in the sunshine. And she was racing towards me, just me and her in one corridor. She was like a galleon in full sail. What a picture of hope and happiness and love. She had it all. And that day, I waited the wedding breakfast in the ball supper room, served the Queen and the bride refused everything. She didn't eat a morsel. And she said to me later, "I couldn't eat a thing, Paul. My stomach was in knots." I was just totally wound up by the day, by the excitement, by the spectacle. She says, "But you know, the most wonderful thing was walking down the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral with my father." She says, "But did you ever look at the footage of that?" I said, "I've seen it many times." She says, "Next time you look at it, watch me." She says, "Can't you see me looking from side to side? Can you see me doing that? Do you know what I'm doing? I'm looking for her. I'm looking for Camilla." And she was there.
Diana didn't have the happiest of childhoods. Her parents separated when she was younger, so she came from a broken home, and I think perhaps there was an insecurity that a seed was sown from a young age, and that insecurity was something that flourished actually within her as she got older.
Is there any possibility of any announcement of your marriage in the near future? Can you tell me? Can you tell me if there's any possibility?
I'm not going to say anything, I'm afraid.
Right, well, Prince Charles did give us a hint himself. He said we wouldn't have to wait too long.
Just as Charles fell immediately in love with Princess Diana, or Lady Diana Spencer as she was at the time, so too did Britain. We hadn't seen the likes of a future princess like this for many, many years, and Diana was just a stunner. I mean, that picture that Arthur Edwards took of her coming out of her nursery in that see-through dress, that set of pins that she sported, the innocence about her, you just thought, wow, this girl is knockout. There was a huge interest from the moment the engagement happened. Everyone watched the engagement footage. Everyone around the world, pretty much, tuned into the royal wedding. I mean, that was a huge event in '81.
Well, I think now when we reflect on it and after we've seen interviews that Diana gave subsequently, we know that she was extremely ill-prepared for married life into the royal family, and she felt enormous pressure from day one. Even when they were discussing the engagement and the wedding plans, I think the pressure started to build on her. The media scrutiny of Lady Di, as she was then, I think, played foremost on her mind. She didn't know how she needed to behave. And when she actually entered married life, she found it a very lonely experience. Charles was off enjoying his country pursuits, and she felt that she was left rather in a world she didn't recognise, a modern woman in quite an old school environment of Buckingham Palace, essentially feeling like a spare part.
Fuck it!
Well, the cracks in their relationship, I think they began to show very quickly. because Diana didn't understand. I mean, after she became engaged to Prince Charles, he never seemed to be around. He was always so busy. And she was moved into Buckingham Palace, and she had her own apartment there, and he was sort of down the corridor. And she was absolutely on her own.
Well, Diana made it very clear that she felt like a fish out of water. Even before her actual wedding, she said she spent those nights before her wedding at Clarence House, which was then the Queen Mother's residence. And the night before her wedding was one of the most miserable of her life. She recalls how she felt completely isolated, you know, the images of the princess trapped in the tower. I think she felt isolated, and I don't think that the palace were prepared for someone who perhaps didn't have that royal training to marry into the royal family and to become a future queen. She was the Princess of Wales, she became famous overnight, and she didn't really have the tools to equip her for such immediate stardom.
I saw correspondence between them. I saw correspondence from the princess to the queen, which said how happy she was and how she loved to be a wife and how much she would support Charles in his future career. They were her views, but times changed. Within 1 year, she had William, and then Harry came along. And so the first 5 years of the princess's marriage, she felt that she could make it work.
Diana particularly was a modern parent, but she was a modern aristocratic parent, and she did use nannies. They lived in Kensington Palace in London, and they also had a country house, Highgrove, in Gloucestershire. And in both of those houses, there was a floor, the top floor of the house was given over to the nursery. And it had bedrooms and sitting rooms and dining rooms, and it was where the royal children spent most of their time with their nannies and with the chauffeurs and close protection officers. So it was a traditional sort of childhood, but with lots of love from both parents. Diana was very demonstrative as a mother. I think she had never been properly mothered herself because her own mother had left home when she was 6 years old. So she didn't really know what being a mother was, and I think she probably was much more like a big sister to her boys than a mother.
Diana was a wonderful mother. She was a very hands-on mother. She absolutely adored her children. I think, in retrospect, it's very easy to see Diana as absolutely perfect. And I think she has been airbrushed to be absolutely perfect. But at the time, I think a lot of people felt that she rather smothered her boys rather than mothered her boys, which she didn't. But it could look like that. She also used them as a weapon against Prince Charles. I think she was criticised a little bit. And they said that how come that the children know what's going on in her life? You know, perhaps she should be a bit more discreet. But anyhow, when I was speaking to Wendy Berry, who was the housekeeper at Highgrove, she said that the boys were very well protected. And they really didn't know what was going on, the fights and things between their parents. They didn't know because there was always someone to whisk them away. You know, a protection officer or a nanny. It's not like being in a little council house, you know, when they can hear the shouting through the walls. They were always whisked away. So I think that William and Harry didn't suffer quite as much as we said that they did because they weren't aware of it. I think in adulthood they're very aware of it, but at the time they were quite protected.
princess's popularity gave the royal family a new lease of life.
And, you know, Diana really broke the mould.
She enjoyed life, you know, she was a vibrant person, she was charming, she was the daughter of an earl, she'd been married, well, she was just 20 years old when she got married, and her life had been very prescribed for her within the royal family, but nevertheless, she still asserted herself, and after she got used to being a princess, she became more and more her own person, and that's what people loved about her.
I think there was an acceptance from Diana that she was going to be one of the world's most photographed women, and she actually grew in that role and became more confident with the press. I think she found her role as the world's most photographed woman both suppressing but kind of a revelation to her, in that she had this ability to perhaps manipulate the media, have a bit of a laugh and joke with photographers and reporters alike, and equally use this global presence for good, and that's how she got into her charitable work.
That the quest for perfection our society demands can leave the individual gasping for breath at every turn. This pressure inevitably extends into the way we look. Eating disorders, whether it be anorexia or bulimia, show how an individual can turn the nourishment of the body into a painful attack on themselves. And they have, at their core, a far deeper problem than mere vanity.
She realised that she had a role to fulfil and that people would listen to her and indeed follow her every move, because actually there became this Diana mania quite soon after the marriage, which I think as well Prince Charles resented.
Now, if you watch that piece of footage when Prince Charles is asked, "Are you in love, sir?"
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
And she looks at him as if to say, "What are you talking about? Don't you know what love is?" That was the problem from the beginning. Charles didn't really know what love was. He never really wanted a lover. He wanted a mother.
I haven't yet worked out a method of splitting my wife in half.
In the early days, Diana's light was small, but it began to shine brighter and brighter and brighter. And it was a sort of a Star is Born situation. Prince Charles would say to her, "Well, I married you, I made you a princess. You weren't born royal. This is a man who's been born to be king. This is a man who has been treated from the very beginning as a god. Suddenly being eclipsed by this woman. He wasn't very happy."
I mean, I think that Charles wasn't very good at hiding his feelings. He didn't like the idea that they walked down the street, say when they were doing a royal engagement, and the crowd were calling Diana, Diana. So he felt surplus and didn't really know what to do with himself. There was a dinner and he gave a speech and he was saying, "I wish I could cut my wife in half so that she could, so I would have two wives. Once she could shake hands to people on both sides of the road." But I mean, underlying that little quip, you know, he knew that people didn't really want to see him, they wanted to see her, and he didn't like it.
Well, I think Princess Diana, like the rest of the world, was caught up in the fairy tale that was her own royal relationship, and she was willing it to work, as was everyone else. I think very quickly the reality set in that she didn't have much in common with Prince Charles, and actually they were very different people with very different interests. And that's when the cracks started appearing, and people have suggested, and we now know that that was very soon after they returned from their honeymoon, so very early on in the marriage. You had this period of several years where they were sleeping in separate bedrooms. Apparently, post-1986, they were leading rather separate lives, not just staying in different rooms, but on different floors of the palace. I think if Princess Diana and Prince Charles had been ordinary people, they'd have probably got divorced a lot sooner than they eventually did.
Prince Charles wasn't always kind to the princess. In fact, sometimes he was quite cruel. I remember one occasion she came downstairs wearing a beautiful black and white Catherine Walker gown. And she said, "Charles, I've had it made specially. Do you like it? You look like you belong to the mafia," he said, which cut her down to her knees. Then on one occasion she came down in a tartan dress and said, "Do you like this one? Where you look like a British Caledonian stewardess." It was always undermining, just before an engagement began, so that she would lose her confidence. So it was mental cruelty in a way. I never saw any physical violence. I saw tables being upset, I saw crockery being thrown across the room, but I never saw any physical violence. The rest of the royal family and the royal household, they treated Diana as if she was just another gal. In fact, they didn't give her much consideration at all. I did notice that one day, going through the drawing room, the old Queen Mother, she passed the magazine table and Diana's face was on the front of Hello Magazine. And as she walked past the table, she flipped the magazine over onto its backside and carried on walking. That to me said, she's not really accepted. They don't like it. She's beginning to outshine even the senior members of the royal family. This is dangerous territory. Now the royal marriage was falling apart, and I was Diana's man. Placed strategically at Highgrove, placed there to keep the house in order, but also to be there for Diana, to be there as a rock, she later called me. It was difficult for me to tread the path between Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Now, Diana arrived every weekend with the boys on Friday afternoon and left every Sunday, but someone else occupied that space in between. And I learned to serve two royal mistresses. One, Princess of Wales, and the other, Mrs. Parker Bowles.
She always knew that there was someone else in the background waiting. She knew it on her wedding day. And again, if you look at the footage of Princess Diana walking down the aisle with her father, you will see her looking from side to side. And she once said to me, "You know what I'm doing, don't you? I'm looking for her." And she was there. Even on my wedding day, she was sat there in the congregation. You see, Camilla Parker Bowles has been that ghost, always there throughout the princess's life.
was impossible to do this balancing act between the prince and the princess, the prince during the week and the princess at the weekend, and then have someone else pop in to this ménage à trois. It was incredibly difficult because the princess would ring me up from London and say, "Where's Prince Charles tonight, Paul? Where's the Prince of Wales? He's out for dinner, Your Royal Highness. Where is he? I've no idea." "Of course you know where he is. You always know where he is." "Who's he got for dinner tomorrow night? I hear he's got a dinner party. Who's coming?" "Don't ask me. Please ask him." One day I told the princess the prince was out. The prince found out. I'd been talking to the princess, thinking I'd been gossiping to her. He rang his bell. I went into the library, stood there. "Your Royal Highness, I hear you've had a conversation with my wife. Why are you talking about me being out last night?" "I'm sorry, Your Royal Highness, but you were." "Well, can't you lie?" "You're asking me to lie about you not being in residence." "Yes, why did you do what you're bloody told?" And he picked up a book and started to stamp on the spot like a petulant child, and he hurled this book at me across the room. I dodged and missed it, and I thought, I think my time's up. I think it's time I got out. Diana rescued me. She took me back with her.
The situation reached a boiling point in 1989 when Diana confronted Camilla at a birthday party. In an intensely emotional exchange, Diana told Camilla that she knew what was going on between her and Charles.
I think Diana was terrified. She says she was. And she looked for Charles. She was looking. They went to Annabel Goldsmith's house, beautiful house in Richmond, and it was a big party on probably on 3 or 4 floors, and she looked around, "Where's Charles? Where's Charles?" And then she realised that he must be downstairs on the lower level in the sort of basement area. Not a basement like we know, but a very glamorous downstairs rooms. And she went down there, and there they were. She obviously got this real anger, because you'd have to be very angry to do that, and brave. And she just confronted Camilla and said, I'm not stupid, I know what's going on. So Camilla must have been completely taken aback. I mean, you don't expect that to happen.
That was the turning point, really, of the relationship, because, soon thereafter, I think Diana had then given up any hope of a reconciliation. Because I think, to be honest, I think she firmly believed that something, like a return to normality within her marriage could happen. I think she really held out hope that that might happen. But I think this meeting, I think, probably scotched it. I think she realised then that there's little or no chance of us returning to a normal married life. And thereafter, of course,
The announcement by John Major was made at the House of Parliaments, and their separation was official.
Well, I think Princess Diana, like the rest of the world, was caught up in the fairy tale that was her own royal relationship, and she was willing it to work, as was everyone else. Actually, the reality behind Palace Gates is that pretty quickly it started falling apart. I think very quickly the reality set in that she didn't have much in common with Prince Charles, and actually they were very different people with very different interests, and that's when the cracks started appearing, and people have suggested, and we now know, that that was very soon after they returned from their honeymoon, so very early on in the marriage.
So he's basically a very kind and thoughtful and very sensitive person, and he just didn't understand somebody like Diana. She was much too young for him. Well, I used to say that Diana was a high school dropout and Charles was a university lecturer. I mean, Diana They were so different, and obviously that can work very well, but she was very, very young, and she'd had no experience of life. And although she'd lived on the Sandringham estate and knew the royal family, she didn't really know the royal family. And unless she didn't really know what it would be like to be married into them.
Madam, how are you enjoying married life?
Highly recommend.
How do you like Balmoral as a place?
Lovely.
Have you cooked a breakfast yet?
Don't eat
I think she thought it was all going to be sort of wonderful. So she'd been disappointed from the very beginning. And she had this vision of Charles, which wasn't really him at all. I mean, and then she started to find Charles very dull. And he found her stupid. I mean, she had a very quick wit, but she wasn't well read. She wasn't really educated, and Charles was highly educated.
My years at Westheath were certainly very happy ones indeed. I made many friends who I often see, and in spite of what Miss Rudge and my other teachers may have thought at the time, I did actually learn something. So you would never have known by my O-level results.
All his friends were much, much older. So he started to dump his friends. And Diana's friends were all much, much younger. And so they started to lead separate lives very, very early on. And then Diana had children very, very quickly. I mean, William was born in 82, and she'd only got married in 81, and she had a very difficult pregnancy with William. So she was, she was getting used to being royal. She was pregnant. The marriage wasn't quite what she imagined it, but she thought it would all be all right. So she was living on a dream, really.
The rest of the royal family and the royal household, they treated Diana as if she was just another gal. In fact, they didn't give her much consideration at all. I did notice that one day, going through the drawing room, the old Queen Mother, she passed the magazine table and Diana's face was on the front of Hello Magazine or something. And as she walked past the table, she flipped the magazine over onto its backside and carried on walking. That to me said, she's not really accepted. They don't like it. She's beginning to outshine even the senior members of the royal family. This is dangerous territory.
The Queen and Diana weren't pally-pally, because Diana, she was too young. She didn't want to sit. She said, I don't want to have dinner with Brenda. She used to call her Brenda. In those days, there was a satirical story that used to run in Private Eye every week. And the Queen was Brenda, and I think Prince Philip was Stavros. But so Diana was very quick-witted, but she didn't want to have dinner with the Queen on her own, because she said, I wouldn't know what to say to her. Well, I think Prince Philip, when he heard she was coming, he'd go into another room. So he just didn't want the confrontation with her. But at the beginning, yes, he had a very good relationship with her, and he looked after her. And he made sure that she sat next to him at dinner, and he brought her into the conversation. He could see how nervous she was of the whole situation. And I think the Queen really let him deal with it.
She's painting a very tragic picture of how she was pitched into the royal family without any form of help, without any form of rehearsal, and how they were not able to help her evolve and grow up, and weren't able to appreciate what she was trying to do or give her lessons which she very much needed.
I think after Harry was born, the relationship seriously broke down. It was, it just hadn't worked out like both of them expected. And even before the wedding, Diana had serious doubts, and so did Charles. But it was too late, and her sisters famously said, "But Dutch," which was her nickname, "your face is on the tea towels." And it's a great line. I know it's been used a lot, but it does sum it all up. It's too late. And Charles's friends, his close friends, warned him, "This is not going to work, Charles. She's too young, she's too naive, and you're an imaginary prince. She doesn't know you at all." So it had very little chance. And then if you add that mix to the huge and unprecedented interest in the couple, well, especially in Diana, you can see it reach boiling point.
The public admired the couple deeply. She was cherished as the people's princess, and he held the title of the Prince of Wales. With 2 newborn children beloved by the nation and all the wealth they could desire, they seemed to have it all. However, beneath the surface, both were profoundly unhappy in their marriage.
I think by and large, the national press were very good to Diana in their reporting.
How well are you coping with all the press attention?
Well, as you can see, you can tell.
Are you bearing up with it quite well, though? Because it must be quite a strain with all of us after you.
Well, it is, naturally.
You're coping with it all right, though? You seem to be doing very well.
I'm still around.
Well, Charles was so used to having all the attention on him, which it had been since he was born. He didn't like the idea that they walked down a street, say, when they were doing a royal engagement, and the crowd were calling, "Diana, Diana." So he felt surplus and didn't really know what to do with himself, and made lots of sort of rather pathetic remarks like, "There should be 2 of me, and if I cut myself in half." I mean, he didn't know what to do or say, and yes, it was a form of jealousy. Yes, it was.
When love eluded them within their own marriage, both Charles and Diana sought affection outside of their household. They each became involved in extramarital relationships. Charles later revealed to his official biographer, Jonathan Dimbleby, that he rekindled his romance with Camilla Parker Bowles in 1986.
Well, Charles was in love with Camilla from a very early age. When he was still in the Navy, he fell in love with Camilla.
She always knew that there was someone else in the background waiting. She knew it on her wedding day. And again, if you look at the footage of Princess Diana walking down the aisle with her father, you will see her looking from side to side. And she once said to me, "You know what I'm doing, don't you? I'm looking for her." And she was there. Even on my wedding day, she was sat there in the congregation. You see, Camilla Parker Bowles has been that ghost, always there throughout the princess's life.
Meanwhile, it's believed that Diana began her affair with Army Captain James Hewitt around a similar period. Hewitt gained public attention in 1986 when he crossed paths with Princess Diana at a party. Shortly after, he took on the role of her riding instructor, and their relationship soon turned romantic. A connection that would endure for several years.
It was difficult for me to tread the path between Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Now, Diana arrived every weekend with the boys on Friday afternoon and left every Sunday. But someone else occupied that space in between. And I learned to serve 2 royal mistresses. One, Princess of Wales, and the other, Mrs. Parker Bowles. This was still a secret. I was keeping this secret from both the prince and the princess, until, of course, it became intolerable.
Well, Camilla lived near Charles at Highgrove, and Charles used to see her on Sundays. So when Diana drove back to London, to Kensington Palace, Charles would be out at the other end of the drive, driving off to Camilla's house, or she would be coming to Highgrove. And Diana knew perfectly well this was happening. So that they sort of had Sundays are for Camilla.
By the time Diana met Hewitt, her marriage to Prince Charles was already strained, and reportedly Charles was too preoccupied with rekindling his relationship with his former girlfriend, Camilla, to be concerned.
I think Diana was terrified. She says she was. And she looked for Charles. She was looking. They went to Annabel Goldsmith's house, beautiful house in Richmond, and it was a big party on probably on 3 or 4 floors, and she looked around, where's Charles, where's Charles? And then she realised that he must be downstairs on the lower level in the sort of basement area. And she went down there, and there they were. And then, you know, she obviously got this real anger, because you'd have to be very angry to do that, and brave. And she just confronted Camilla and said, you know, I'm not stupid, I know what's going on. So Camilla must have been completely taken aback. I mean, you don't expect that to happen. Diana was shaking with fear and rage. And on the way back in the car, she was just in hysterical tears. And her protection officer, Ken Worf, was with her, and so he confirms all this, that she just sobbed all the way home, and I don't think Charles said a word.
In December 1992, Prime Minister John Major announced to the House of Commons that the Prince and Princess of Wales were separating.
The Waleses were a very unhappy couple, in contrast to the hopes expressed when they became engaged. Charles said at that time he was surprised she was willing to put up with him. So, were they in love?
Of course. Whatever in love means.
Joining me now in the studio is Andrew Morton, the author of Diana, Her True Story, which brought to the public's attention the state of the royal marriage. Mr. Morton, the palace said today that no third party is involved. Can that be right?
Ostensibly no, but given the fact that the Princess of Wales believes that Prince Charles's friendship with another woman, Camilla Parker Bowles, has cast a long shadow over that marriage, must be considered when you look at the failure of this 11-year union.
Diana, Her True Story, claimed to tell from the inside the tale of a loveless marriage, with evidence from some of her closest friends.
Well, the Andrew Morton book was a sensation. No one had any idea that Diana was involved with the book at all. And in fact, she even denied that she was at the beginning. But what happened was she made a decision that she wanted the world, if you like, to know the truth of her marriage. In the summer of '92, a recording of Diana speaking to one of her friends, who actually was her lover, James Gilby, appeared in one of the newspapers. The transcript of this recording was unbelievable. And he called her Squidgy, and she told him all her woes and what she thought about members of the royal family, and you know, how the Queen Mother, how cold the Queen Mother was, and it was an extraordinary, explosive moment, and really there was very little that the Queen could do after that.
In 1992, tapes of a phone recording between Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles were released, prompting further rumours of unfaithfulness.
Thousands of copies of the magazine now being faxed around Britain, some editors are uneasy.
Those in the know in London and the chattering classes and those with fax machines to Australia can know what's in it, but the rest of the country doesn't.
Buckingham Palace tonight declined to comment on the contents of the magazine. There's been no comment from Mrs. Parker Bowles. In the past, her husband has dismissed such allegations as rubbish.
He will have to soldier on, knowing that more revelations about his private life, his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, may well come out in the future.
You think that's a possibility, that there'll be more revelations about third parties, despite what the palace says?
The fact that the Camilla Gate tapes, the so-called Camilla Gate tapes, have not yet been published remains a sword of Damocles hanging over Prince Charles's head and could fatally damage his position.
In an interview in 1994, Prince Charles admitted to committing adultery during his and Diana's marriage.
Mrs. Parker Bowles is a great friend of mine. I have a large number of friends I'm terribly lucky to have. When marriages break down, awful and miserable as that is, that so often, you know, that it is your friends who are the most important.
The Prince of Wales had just been on TV to admit adultery with Camilla Parker Bowles, and the princess that evening was due to go out to the Serpentine Gallery to see her old friend Lord Palumbo.
The woman at the centre of these latest royal revelations, Camilla Parker Bowles, was today at home with her family in Wiltshire. It's claimed in a second extract from the Jonathan Dimbleby biography, which is published in today's Sunday Times, that she and the Prince of Wales have had 3 separate affairs.
The Prince of Wales had just been on TV to admit adultery with Camilla Parker Bowles, and the princess that evening was due to go out to the Serpentine Gallery to see her old friend Lord Palumbo and open his new exhibition. I can't go. I'm not going. I'm not going. It'll be too humiliating. The whole world now knows that Charles has been having an affair. He's admitted it. You are going, I said. I've got nothing to wear. Yes, you have got something to wear. I went up to her wardrobe room and picked out a Christina Strambolian dress with a fishtail. This is what you're going to wear, I said. I can't fit into it. Yes, you can. Put it on. So she slipped it on. Now, to complement that, I think we should have the pearl choker and the sapphire. That's all you need. High heels and those jewels. Right, she put them on and she looked $1 million. Remember, when you go out there, I said, you stride, you hold your head high, you smile, you engage, firm handshake. Say to yourself, I am Diana, Princess of Wales, and I am here to stay. I am the mother of the future King of England. Say it to yourself. The only secret Diana ever kept from me was the Martin Bashir interview for Panorama. Now, I'd known Martin Bashir for a long time, and he was one of the men that I used to bring into the palace under a blanket because he didn't want to be seen by anyone. He was never a lover of the princesses. He was just a work associate. He persuaded the princess that she had to have a voice. She needed to tell her story, and what better a vehicle than Panorama? I was sent home on a Sunday afternoon. Strange, I thought. Why would she be sending me home? Go and spend some time with your family. I'm doing nothing this afternoon. Don't worry about me. The minute I'd left the palace, in through the back door comes Martin Bashir and his camera crew. And they set up the Prince of Wales sitting room, which she used for that interview.
At the age of 19, you always think you're prepared for everything, and you think you have the knowledge of what's coming ahead. But although I was daunted at the prospect at the time, I felt I had the support of my husband-to-be.
I had no idea that was being done. The next morning I came to work, I noticed all the furniture had been moved. Why have you moved the furniture? It's not in the same place. I had a dance class. I had to move the furniture out of the way just so that we could exercise. Strange. Very strange. She avoided me for the next 2 days, never spoke to me. How strange, I thought. She's hiding something. And then she told me that she'd made a recording with Martin Bashir for Panorama. What have you said? Well, I just put the record straight, she said. We didn't know what she'd said until we saw it.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
31 million people stopped in their tracks on that Monday night and couldn't believe what they were seeing. The Princess of Wales bearing her heart on national television. We couldn't take our eyes away from it. We couldn't believe what we were hearing. There are 3 people in my marriage. My husband isn't fit for the top job. I think it would bring him limitations. She was honest, open, and frank. Did you love James Hewitt?
Yes, it did. Yes.
Were you unfaithful?
Yes, I adored him. Yes, I was in love with him. But I was very let down.
It was all there. I couldn't believe it. It was too raw for most people, and an embarrassment for the royal family. That was the final straw. That was the straw that broke the back of the House of Windsor. From that moment on, Diana was outcast. Her titles were stripped. She was no longer prayed for in church. She was on her own.
You do live very much on your own, don't you?
Yes, I am. I don't mind that, actually. You know, people think that at the end of the day, a man is the only answer. Actually, a fulfilling job is better for me.
Today, Princess Diana lent her high-profile support to try to stop these runaways from becoming permanently homeless.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward.
Took her on holiday with Dodie Fired. 3 British papers have paid £500,000 for them. Other publications worldwide are eagerly doing deals.
Fairy tales usually end at this point with the simple phrase, "They lived happily ever after."
The Princess of Wales was a new kind of royal. A new word began to appear in the media's vocabulary, die-mania.
The Princess of Wales has agreed to Prince Charles's request for a divorce.
In some small way, I have been of service in return.
The Princess of Wales has died in a car accident.
At Buckingham Palace, telegrams of condolence have been arriving from leaders around the world.
I wanted just to be with you, to show that you are not forgotten.
Diana did things differently. There was a memo came from Buckingham Palace. Diana, when you're in public, please wear a hat and please wear gloves, because you're touching the public and you might catch something. And I'm not too sure about you touching those people with HIV and AIDS. Are you sure you're safe? We lived in a world of ignorance. We lived in a world where people were not educated. They didn't know. The princess introduced me to the first person dying with HIV and AIDS. I didn't know anything about it until she showed me that world. She would sit and hold people's hands and counsel them. So life with Diana was very different.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward, according to press reports. All speculation had centred on whether she would wear gloves when shaking hands with the staff and patients on the new ward. But as she entered, to the delight of the staff, she clearly wasn't wearing gloves. And she shook hands with all the nurses, doctors, and all 10 patients on the ward. She stayed more than an hour, but was not filmed with any of the patients. They were worried about public exposure. Only one agreed to be photographed.
Well, I think the princess actually helped get that message across by the mere fact that she wasn't wearing gloves and the mere fact that she shook hands with the patients and myself.
HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. What's more, you can share their homes, their workplaces, their playgrounds, and their toys. We all need to be alert to the special needs of those for whom AIDS is the last straw in an already heavy burden of discrimination and misfortune.
Being such a compassionate personality, I think it's really important to remember that Diana really put an emphasis on coming into contact with the public and relating to them and creating a bond, and removing the gloves is symbolic of that, in that she liked to touch people, she liked to be involved with them. And there's a picture of her in 1991 where she's shaking hands with an AIDS patient, which was significant insofar as it helped dispel a lot of the misconceptions around AIDS at the time. And it was something that was a marked departure from what we'd seen previously in the royal family.
And that's what she wanted to do. And the Queen then turned around and said, well, you know, why don't you do something nice? Well, that was a complete blow up for her, because that made her even more determined to get involved with it. And there's, you know, thereafter, Diana's involvement with the AIDS charitable trusts, of which there are many, was vitally important to where we are today, where there is now, you know, a complete, almost total recovery of people dying from AIDS. You know, that early initiative of Diana, who was, you know, instrumental in fundraising, you know, hundreds of thousands because of who she was, and her visiting AIDS hospices, which I went to with her, you know, to raise the awareness of the problems and the need for research.
And then, of course, she took William and Harry to the London Lighthouse to see people suffering and dying with HIV and AIDS. Invaluable. Look at them now, carrying on their mother's work in those fields which she pioneered, in those fields which the rest of the royal family wouldn't dare touch. And I remember the Queen saying, but Diana, you must wear gloves. You might catch whatever these people have. I think it's just born of ignorance, really, because they knew nothing better. They weren't educated. The princess was.
We have a battle on our hands. It has to be waged on two major fronts: prevention and cure. As far as prevention is concerned, parents and teachers are in the front line. As a parent myself, I'm only too aware of the responsibility this implies in terms of the kind of upbringing best suited to encourage the child to say no.
She also boosted the morale of the soldiers serving in Northern Ireland. She went to Londonderry to visit the Royal Hampshire Regiment, one of the regiments of which she was Colonel-in-Chief. Even in full combat gear, the princess managed to look glamorous, providing a welcome relief for the men used to the daily dangers of serving in the troubled province. Although an obvious target herself, the princess seemed to shrug off any fears. During the time of the Gulf War, she was there to give support to the wives and children of servicemen fighting in the desert. And she chatted to the fighting men who would soon be on their way to take up arms against the Iraqis. She gave great comfort to many during frightening times. And it wasn't only the British troops who idolized her. Out in the sands of Kuwait, the American forces had also made her their pin-up.
She had to have a reason to work, and the homeless was another case in point.
For Diana, Princess of Wales, leprosy and the need to rid the world of the stigma that blights its sufferers has become something of a personal crusade. Addressing an international conference in London this morning, she called on people to show greater awareness and perhaps, like her, extend a caring hand.
It's always been my concern to touch people with leprosy, trying to show in a simple action that they are not reviled, nor are we repulsed.
She had to have something to do as a princess. And, you know, for her, yeah, the fun bits of the supermarkets, you know, walking down the streets of Glasgow, whatever, shaking people's hands was great. But getting involved in these major issues of AIDS, the homeless, and so forth was very important to her.
The princess's popularity gave the royal family new blood. It gave new blood in lots of different ways. Of course, with William and Harry arriving, it gave the royal family a new line.
But it wasn't always so high-powered. She twice flew to Pakistan to support Imran Khan's cancer hospital, and it was here that a photograph of a caring Diana cradling a sick child was to spark her last and controversial press interview. That photograph inspired the French daily Le Monde, and the interview started another controversy.
in most circumstances, when the man on the street, if you like, meets royalty, it's in a situation that's planned, it's corralled, and you stand there and you'll be there, and somebody will come along and you'll shake your hand, don't say anything, you either bob or you curtsy, and then you move on, and that's your lasting impact of royalty. And that wasn't Diana. You know, Diana would come along, this shaking of the hand and this bobbing nonsense. You know, she would often say, don't call me ma'am, call me Diana, you know, and engage them in a conversation. And I remember one incident in Manchester, and we were walking down some street in Manchester that had been terraced off with these metal railings. And we were walking down and she's chatting away, and suddenly she sees this elderly woman with a walking stick about 3 people back. And she said, what are you doing over there? And this sort of woman, you know, with this sort of manky neck, said, oh, she said, I want to say hello to you. She said, oh, just a minute, and got this, she said, get that policeman, Ken, and get that lady to come through here. So the lady, you know, came through and, you know, started chatting away there. And she said, look, you ought to get a warmer coat than that. So sort of suddenly, out of nowhere, you're getting this sort of princess that's now more concerned about somebody else in the crowd than herself. This was typical Diana. I saw that on so many occasions because she felt it was part of her duty rather than just turn up, shake and push a few people back.
Especially now, as Christmas brings its own painful stresses to so many people in need. The sick, the old, the handicapped and the homeless, the lonely, the confused, and the simply unloved, who are needing your help more than ever.
And that's a point to which I'd often refer, because that one moment of humanity changed my life. And I saw the princess in a different light. I saw her as beautiful inside as she was on the outside. Life with Diana was 24/7. My wife said, there are 3 people in my marriage too, because Diana is always there. She used to say, she's your baby. I said, yes, she's my baby. She needs me. She needs me to be there. My wife had 2 children. The princess had no one. Her children were away at boarding school. She had no husband. Occasionally, she had a male companion, but they came and they went. I was responsible for that too. I was a go-between. I was the one that went out with my car, brought people back to Kensington Palace in the back seat of my car underneath a blanket, just to give the princess some love. All she was ever looking for was to be loved. She used to say to me, all I ever want, Paul, is a man to put their arms around me and say, I love you. That's not too much to ask, is it? And that's what she was searching for. Towards the end of her life, of course, she found her soulmate. Her soulmate was Hasnat Khan, the heart surgeon.
Diana, when she came to Pakistan, this was a country that she had fond memories of, wasn't it?
Yes, I think she enjoyed her time here. She really liked the days she spent here, I think.
And meeting your family, that must have been a special moment for her and for them.
I think it definitely was for my family, and I think she enjoyed the afternoon tea with them. I think that's a long time ago now. 1996, I think.
I remember the day the princess met Hasnat Khan. She came back from the hospital, having visited children on the ward, and she said the most astonishing things happened to me today. As we sat down, she told me about this meeting. She said I was going up in the elevator and somebody put their foot into the elevator door as it was closing, and it opened again. And there he was. This gorgeous man was staring at me. Well, who wouldn't stare at Princess Diana? Surrounded by a gaggle of students, Hasnat was on his rounds around the hospital. And there he was, face to face with the princess for the first time. And she said, I knew then, I knew I would have a relationship with him. Our chemistry was so strong that I knew. Of course, their relationship was nearly 2 years in the making. 2 years, no one knew about him. Again, I was the go-between. I would bring him into the palace. I'd ask chef to cook dinner for 2. I'd wait dinner for 2. I'd make sure they were comfortable before I went home. And in the morning, I'd take him back in the boot of my car to the hospital. So the police never saw him. The chefs never saw him. The maids never saw him. No one saw him, just me.
How angry are you at some of the things that you've read over the years and things that have been said? I mean, they must be quite painful when people deal with something that is so intensely personal and make mistakes and get things wrong.
It is very annoying. It's but what you can do, you can't do anything. It's when you just read. The best thing what I thought we could do is stop reading about it. And if I would read something and that would be contradictory to the events or the reality, then obviously you get upset, especially when it relates to what my father said this, which I know isn't true, or my friend something said this, and I know it, categorically it wasn't true, or an onlooker said that, which could be any freelance photographer, or we took an opinion of a psychologist saying that the body language is such. Or, obviously these are annoying things and they hurt, but then the media are doing their job. And
you were saying outside, in terms of your memory of Diana, the normalcy of the person is what struck you, wasn't it?
I found a very normal person, yes. We all have our drawbacks and qualities. I found her as, as someone who just met her, I found her a very normal person. A normal person with great qualities, and of course there's some, personal drawbacks like we have, like habits, for example. And I think she did a great work for the country and for people all over the world, not just from United Kingdom, not just for United Kingdom, for everyone. I think that's very important.
And in fact, Diana introduced William and Harry to Hasnat Khan, because in the princess's eyes, Hasnat was the man she was going to marry. So better the boys get used to him.
But he was very, very worried that the press would get hold of it, and he couldn't deal with it.
I don't know how she'll find a husband, but I always imagined she'd end up with someone older, very powerful and rich, perhaps a sort of Onassis type figure that really could look after her and whisk her away from everything.
I hope you can find it in your hearts to understand and to give me the time and space that has been lacking in recent years.
Hasnat Khan had been the princess's companion for over 2 years. Nobody knew about Hasnat Khan. That was not played out on the world stage. Whereas, after they'd broken up, the princess was invited to the south of France by the Mohammed Al Fayeds. She met Dodi Al Fayed.
Diana and Dodi met long before 1997. They met at various events, film premieres, at the polo, at the horse show, the sort of places that people of their kind would meet at. When they actually fell in love in the summer of 1997, they were already friends. And then, of course, they were together in the south of France, and a relationship which was already established became a deeper and closer relationship. And when they came back to London, they'd already made arrangements to get in touch with each other. They met and they started seeing each other, and it all went on from there.
Did you know that the romance of the princess and Dodi Al-Fayed was 30 days from beginning to end? It only lasted 30 days. I spoke to her regularly when she was away. Have you seen Hasnat? I said, yes, I went for a drink with him last night. What does he think of me being here in the south of France with Dodi Al-Fayed? Well, he's not too pleased. Has he seen the pictures in the papers? Yes, he has, because you know his routine. You know every morning he goes to the corner shop and sees the press. You know that. And I know that's what you're doing. You're manipulating the world's media by having these pictures taken to show Hasnat who you're with. It's a sort of a... Are you jealous? Do you mind? Do you care? Are you bothered? That's what Diana was saying to Hasnat Khan through those pictures in the world's media. And of course, Hasnat was bothered.
I knew Dodi, and he was probably one of the most charming people you could ever meet. And he's also rather cool, had an American accent, beautifully dressed, and he treated Diana like the princess she was. Nobody else had treated her like that. I mean, with Hasnat Khan, she had to sort of hide him at the back of her car, and they had to, they mostly ate in, or if they went out, she was in disguise. But with Dodi, she could show herself off. I think she liked him very much. I don't know if she was in love with him, but she was in love with the idea of him. I think Diana wanted to get married again, and she wanted to have another child. Again, I think getting married again probably was a bit of a fantasy. Certainly getting married to the doctor that she was in love with was a fantasy, because it would never have worked out. It couldn't have worked for him.
I didn't find out until recently that he called her the day before she died on her mobile phone. He called her to try and patch up their relationship. Had she returned to London, I truly believe the romance between Hasnat Khan and the princess would have been rekindled. It was too strong. It was too deep. They were true soulmates.
But she did want to get married again, very much so. In a way, I think she wanted to find someone that could work with her. In a way that it was what she'd hoped for when she married Prince Charles.
I said to the princess, when are you coming home? I'm coming home on Sunday, Paul. I'm just bored. I'm on this boat. It's freezing cold downstairs. It's boiling hot on deck. I'm sending these pictures out and nobody's coming back to me. I'm having no communication. I need to come home. But the only way home is on the Harrods jet. The only way I can get home is via Paris, because Dodi has to go to Paris to do some business for his father. How is he with you? Oh, he's very spoiling. He's very generous, the princess said. He's given me a necklace, some earrings. He's given me a watch. I said, you know what's coming next, don't you?
Ragazzi, per cortesia. Per cortesia.
There were so many people that let go of her, that abandoned her, that let her go into the world. it wasn't a safe place for her. She was too important. She was too big a person to be let free. And having lived inside that safety of that gilded cage of a palace for so long, what happens to a beautiful peacock when you let it into the wild? It gets eaten by something. You see, she needed to be kept safe, and that's what she was looking for. She was looking for her Aristotle Onassis.
After the breakdown of her marriage to Prince Charles in 1996, Princess Diana sought solace and emotional fulfillment in her personal life. Having endured years of public scrutiny and private struggles, she was determined to find happiness on her own terms. In the summer of 1997, Diana's search for a new relationship led her to Dodi Fayed, the son of billionaire businessman Mohammed Al Fayed. Princess Diana first met Dodi Fayed in 1986 at a polo match in Windsor. At the time, Dodi's team was playing against Prince Charles's team. The encounter was brief, and at that point there was no indication that they would later form a romantic relationship. Diana was still married to Prince Charles, and Dodi was known primarily for his connections within elite circles, thanks to his father, Mohammed Al Fayed. Their paths crossed again over a decade later, when Diana accepted an invitation from Mohammed Al Fayed to vacation with his family on their yacht in the south of France.
You see, she always thought that she was as kind of Jackie Kennedy, that had lost her mainstay in life and still needed someone to take care of her and protect her, keep her safe. And in a way, Dodi Al Fayed was a kind of Aristotle Onassis. He was heir to a fortune, had an aeroplane and a boat, and was able to take the princess around the world in a safety corridor.
He was very nice to women. He wasn't a nasty person at all. He was a very sweet person, and he treated Diana like the princess she was. Nobody else had treated her like that.
And that's what thrilled her, in a way. That for once in her life, she'd found someone that could treat her in the way which she'd become accustomed, and the way that her lifestyle had always been.
I mean, with Hasnat Khan, she had to sort of hide him at the back of her car, and they had to, they mostly ate in, or if they went out, she was in disguise. But with Dodi, she could show herself off. So it was the first really free relationship she'd had since her marriage had broken down. It's the first time she could actually be out with someone, and she was having a ball.
She'd lived that relationship with Dodi Al Fayed in 40 days. It was 40 days from beginning to end. Now, you might think it was a year. Because it was played entirely on the world stage, you think it was longer. It was 40 days. From the moment she met him to the moment she died. And it was over.
There's fresh controversy surrounding Princess Diana this lunchtime after newspaper reports linking her with Dodi Fayed, the son of the Harrods boss Mohammed Al Fayed. She's said to have joined the 40-year-old millionaire and a group of friends for a Mediterranean cruise last weekend. Once again, her judgment's under scrutiny, a day before she leaves for a controversial trip to Bosnia to campaign against landmines.
I knew Dodi, and he was probably one of the most charming people you could ever meet. And he's also rather cool, had an American accent, beautifully dressed. With Dodi, she could show herself off. So it was the first really free relationship she'd had since her marriage had broken down.
Just weeks after her controversial holiday with the Al Fayed family, which was widely discussed in the tabloids, it's emerged that Princess Diana has enjoyed a second holiday, this time with Mohammed Al Fayed's son.
Dodi and Diana's relationship blossomed during a holiday in the Mediterranean. They spent time aboard his father's luxurious yacht, the Unical, travelling around the French Riviera. For Diana, this trip represented more than a romantic holiday. It symbolised her desire to live life on her own terms, outside the constraints of the royal family and the spotlight that had often brought her pain. Dodi seemed to offer Diana a sense of freedom and spontaneity. Their romance quickly became the subject of media attention, with photographs of the couple sparking widespread interest and speculation.
I think she liked him very much. I don't know if she was in love with him, but she was in love with the idea of him, because she immediately saw with her power and Dodi's power through his father, they could do great things together. So he fitted in to her blueprint for her future.
Paul Burrell was constantly at Diana's side, one moment maintaining the distance of a man in service, the next joking with the boss.
I said to the princess, "When are you coming home?" "I'm coming home on Sunday, Paul. I'm just bored. I'm on this boat. It's freezing cold downstairs. It's boiling hot on deck. I'm sending these pictures out and nobody's coming back to me. I'm having no communication. I need to come home. But the only way home is on the Harrods jet. The only way I can get home is via Paris." Because Dodi has to go to Paris to do some business for his father. "How is he with you?" "Oh, he's very spoiling. He's very generous," the princess said. "He's given me a necklace, some earrings. He's given me a watch." I said, "You know what's coming next, don't you? He's going to give you a ring." "Do you think so?" "Oh, yes. He'll give you a ring. But remember, when he gives it to you, put it on the fourth finger of your right hand." "Yes, that's the thing to do. I'll do that. You always know what to do." "That's exactly what I'll do."
I spoke to the princess the day before and made all her plans for her return. Then she rang me from the hotel in Paris and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a little late."
They see me as a threat of some kind, and I'm here to do good. I'm not a destructive person.
Why do they see you as a threat?
I think every strong woman in history has had to walk down a similar path, and I think it's the strength that causes the confusion and the fear. Why is she strong? Where does she get it from? Where is she taking it? Where is she going to use it?
By 1997, Princess Diana was increasingly paranoid and anxious about her personal safety and privacy. Her high-profile divorce from Prince Charles in 1996 had left her feeling vulnerable, and she often expressed fears about being constantly watched or manipulated by forces beyond her control, including the British establishment and media. Diana believed she was under surveillance, fearing her phone calls were being monitored and her movements tracked. The relentless attention from the paparazzi also fueled her paranoia. She was constantly hounded by photographers who would chase her through the streets and invade her private moments, making her feel trapped and unable to escape the public eye. Diana took measures to avoid being followed, often switching cars, changing her plans last minute, and using decoy tactics to protect herself from the press. This constant pressure took an emotional toll on her. Her relationship with Dodi Fayed in the summer of 1997 may have been, in part, an attempt to escape from this suffocating atmosphere.
What confuses me, of course, is the fact that 10 months before that, the princess had written me a letter. And in that letter, she said, in her own handwriting, on her own stationery, her words were, "The next few months are the most difficult in my life. I fear that my husband is planning an accident in my car, dash head injuries, in order that he can remarry. Now, when you read those words, a prophecy the princess made 10 months before she died, it's rather eerie.
I hope you can find it in your hearts to understand and to give me the time and space that has been lacking in recent years.
She won't go quietly, that's the problem. I'll fight till the end, because I believe that I have a role to fulfill.
Saturday, the 30th of August, 1997. Diana and Dodi travelled to Paris and planned to stay overnight at the Ritz Hotel, owned by Dodi's father. Even though the princess was divorced from Prince Charles, she was still entitled to the same level of security as other members of the royal family. Diana chose not to take advantage of their security agents and was being looked after by members of the Al Fayed security team, led by Trevor Rees-Jones. The 30th of August 1997, 9:30 p.m. Dodi Al Fayed's plans to take the princess for a romantic meal are ruined as the couple are followed by paparazzi. The couple decided to retreat to a location the paparazzi could not penetrate, the Ritz Hotel. The couple decided to leave the Ritz and head to an apartment owned by Mohammed Al Fayed, a short distance from the hotel. At 12:20 a.m. Henri Paul, the deputy head of security at the Ritz Hotel, had been instructed to drive the hired Mercedes-Benz S280 to elude the paparazzi. A decoy vehicle left the Ritz from the main entrance. Diana and Dodi then departed from the hotel's rear entrance, heading for the apartment. Diana and Dodi were the rear passengers. Trevor Rees-Jones and Henri Paul occupied the front seats. At this point, the paparazzi had caught up with the Mercedes. Henri Paul drove faster to get away from the photographers. Just before Paul headed into the Alma tunnel, he swerved slightly to avoid a slower car, but grazed the vehicle. The car began to spin out of control.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been seriously injured in a car accident in Paris.
French radio is saying that the accident happened in western Paris when the car she was travelling in collided with another vehicle in a tunnel. The princess is reported to have been taken to hospital. There is no news of her condition, and as yet the report is unconfirmed. It's also reported that a passenger in the princess's car was killed. One report, quoting French police, says it is her friend Dodi Al Fayed.
12:23 a.m. At the speed of around 65 miles per hour, the car slammed into the 13th concrete column inside the Alma tunnel. As the victims lay in the wrecked car, the trailing paparazzi rushed to help, while others took pictures. Fayed had been sitting in the left rear seat and appeared to be dead. Fire officers were still trying to resurrect him when he was pronounced dead by a doctor at 1:32 a.m. Henri Paul was declared dead on removal from the wreckage. Still conscious, Trevor Rees-Jones had suffered multiple serious facial injuries. "12:30 a.m. The first police patrol arrived on the scene. "1 a.m. Diana was removed from the car. She then went into cardiac arrest. Following external cardiopulmonary resuscitation, her heart started beating again.
First, we'd heard the princess had had head injuries and broken her arm. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, we heard that the injuries were more serious than they first thought. And it wasn't until about 3 o'clock that they told us that the accident had been fatal. And during this time, my thoughts were, I must get to Paris, because if she's incapacitated in any way, she'll need me to support her, to take care of her, to keep her safe. And when I heard that the accident was fatal, I thought there's even more reason for me to be there. I do need to keep her safe. I need to protect her. I need to look after her. So early Sunday morning, I arrived in Paris and was taken straight by the British ambassador, taken to the hospital.
"1:18 a.m. She was moved to the ambulance, left the scene at 1:41 a.m. and arrived at the hospital at 2:06 a.m. "4 a.m. Princess Diana was pronounced dead, aged 36.
I approached the bed. It was a hospital bed, and the princess was covered in a white sheet. Her head and her feet were visible, and her hands were on top of the sheet. And I approached the bed, and I stared for a while in disbelief, and I watched the fan whirring on the side of the bed table. A fan was moving on the bedside table, and as it moved the princess's hair, and I could see her eyelashes moving. And I took her hand and said, "Wake up. You're asleep, aren't you? Wake up." And nothing happened. She was soft and warm. Not dead at all. It was quite a while before I realized that she was actually not with us, and remembered what she told me about death. She said, at that moment when you pass, your spirit lifts from the body, and you hang around for a while and watch. So I said, "You're here, aren't you? You're here. You're watching me. You're watching what I'm doing. And I'll try and do it the way you'd want me to do it." So I stayed with her.
The death of Diana marked a significant moment in history. It was more than the passing of a beloved public figure. It symbolized a shift in how the world viewed royalty and celebrity.
A girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age.
From that point on, the boundaries between the public and private lives of those in the spotlight would be scrutinized more closely, altering the course of media and public perception. Princess Diana's tragic death in 1997 sent shockwaves around the world, uniting millions of people in grief. What unfolded next rocked the royal family, sparking a crisis that challenged their public image. The then Prince Charles, along with Diana's sisters, flew to Paris on the afternoon of 31st of August 1997 to collect Princess Diana's body following her tragic car accident earlier that day. They returned with her body to RAF Northolt in London that evening, where she was received with a sombre and respectful ceremony.
It must have been very difficult for the Prince of Wales to come to Paris because he was estranged from his wife, divorced from his wife, didn't particularly like her. He was there, of course, for the boys, as their father. But he was out of sorts, didn't know how to behave. This was new territory. His ex-wife was dead.
I feel like everyone else in this country today, utterly devastated. Our thoughts and prayers are with Princess Diana's family, in particular her two sons, the two boys. Our hearts go out to them. We are today a nation in Britain in a state of shock, in mourning, in grief that is so deeply painful for us. She was a wonderful and a warm human being. Though her own life was often, sadly, touched by tragedy, she touched the lives of so many others in Britain, throughout the world, with joy and with comfort. How many times shall we remember her, in how many different ways? With the sick, the dying, with children, with the needy. When with just a look or a gesture that spoke so much more than words, she would reveal to all of us the depth of her compassion and her humanity. You know, how difficult things were for her from time to time, I'm sure we can only guess at, but the people everywhere, not just here in Britain, everywhere, they kept faith with Princess Diana. They liked her, they loved her. They regarded her as one of the people. She was the people's princess. And that's how she will stay, how she will remain in our hearts and in our memories forever.
And we brought her home, and I came home, and I had a little walk in the gardens of Kensington Palace and saw people beginning to bring their floral tributes. Maybe just 20 or 30 of them. Maybe 100. Nothing like what would happen that week.
The public's adoration for the late princess had never been more visible.
She will always be in our thoughts and forever in our hearts. And that's how I see her.
Just sorrow. Just sorrow and wish we'd told before we loved her.
I just can't believe she's gone.
Especially now, as Christmas brings its own painful stresses to so many people in need. The sick, the old, the handicapped and the homeless, the lonely, the confused, and the simply unloved, who are needing your help more than ever.
Princess Diana's funeral took place on 6th of September 1997 at Westminster Abbey in London. The event was attended by world leaders, celebrities and millions of mourners. 2.5 billion viewers worldwide watched the event via television broadcast. Her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, walked behind the coffin, accompanied by their father, Prince Charles, grandfather, Prince Philip, and Diana's brother, Earl Spencer. The experience left a lasting impact on both brothers, with Harry in particular reflecting on how challenging it was to grieve publicly under such intense scrutiny. Elton John performed a special rendition of Candle in the Wind in her memory. The emotional service reflected Diana's profound impact on the public, her humanitarian work, and her role as the people's princess. However, Earl Charles Spencer steered the tone of Diana's funeral in a different direction. His bold eulogy criticised the media and vowed to protect her legacy, marking a striking contrast to the traditional formality of royal ceremonies.
It is a tribute to her level-headedness and strength that despite the most bizarre life imaginable after her childhood, she remained intact, true to herself. There is no doubt that she was looking for a new direction in her life at this time. She talked endlessly of getting away from England, mainly because of the treatment that she received at the hands of the newspapers. I don't think she ever understood why her genuinely good intentions were sneered at by the media, why there appeared to be a permanent quest on their behalf to bring her down. It is baffling. My own and only explanation is that genuine goodness is threatening to those at the opposite end of the moral spectrum. It is a point to remember that of all the ironies about Diana, perhaps the greatest was this: a girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age.
I mean, this was a major event. 80 VIPs and protected people attended this funeral. It was an extraordinary event. For me, the eulogy given by her brother, Charles Spencer, was incredibly powerful.
I would like to end by thanking God for the small mercies he's shown us at this dreadful time, for taking Diana at her most beautiful and radiant, and when she had joy in her private life. Above all, we give thanks for the life of a woman I'm so proud to be able to call my sister.
It didn't hold back at all about the role of the monarchy and the criticism he had of the royal family and the media. And this was being relayed outside. So, you know, what I remember was this, it was like sort of dry leaves falling on a sort of corrugated tin roof. But it was actually the clapping outside of people that were applauding Spencer for what he was saying. It must have been very difficult for the Queen and other members of the royal family to listen to this. But I'm afraid, well, I'm not afraid, Spencer was true. He was right in what he said. You know, I think Diana did get a bad deal from the royal family, if I'm honest. It was sad, really. Sad that even when she died, when the Queen was in Balmoral, it took some persuasion to get the Queen to return to London. But then, to be fair, you know, what the Queen said, and the first time ever where she acknowledged the work of Diana, was on her death, which was rather sad, really.
First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her.
Diana, our companion in faith and sister in Christ, we entrust you to God.
The funeral was, you know, a very moving occasion for, I think, for me. I mean, the service, the brother, the music that she, you know, liked. You know, I think it left a memory for many, many hundreds of thousands of people. But the lasting memory will be certainly the occasion. You know, the walking behind her coffin by her two sons. But I think, you know, the stark reality and truth of her brother, of what he said, will always be, for me, a lasting memory.
After Princess Diana's death, the popularity of the monarchy significantly declined, as the royal family faced criticism for their perceived lack of public emotion and response to the tragedy. polls taken shortly after her death showed that public support for the monarchy dropped to around 50 to 60%, a significant decline compared to previous years. The event marked a turning point in the royal family's relationship with the public.
It shocked them to the core. They didn't understand what was happening. They didn't understand that the world could love a woman whom they'd never met. They didn't understand why people were crying in the street. They thought the world had gone mad, that everybody had gone hysterical. The Queen's first thought was to keep her grandchildren safe, and so she kept them at Balmoral and looked after them behind those walls. That's what she thought was the best thing for them. There was no flag flying at Buckingham Palace. It seemed the royal family didn't care. They wanted rid of Diana. They stripped her of her royal titles, and she was an outcast. Now what to do about it? This had never happened before. It was unprecedented. There was no rule book to look to say, what shall we do next? Everybody was feeling their way very carefully. It was a very sensitive time.
Princess Diana's death only renewed public love for her. The outpouring of grief highlighted Diana as a figure deeply connected to the people through her compassion, humanitarian work, and approachable demeanour.
Well, she's special because she brings light to the world about all the sadness that's going on in the world, the landmine and those people with AIDS.
I wish she was alive to do many more for the country, but sadly God decided to take her, so we just had to pray for her,
Her courage and compassion were obvious wherever she went. This was an Indonesian leprosy hospital, where her refusal to worry about close contact with patients was reckoned to have helped change attitudes to the disfiguring disease.
Here we are, 20 years later. We're still talking about her because Diana has become an icon.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward, according to press reports. All the speculation had centred on whether she would wear gloves when shaking hands with the staff and patients on the new ward.
We're talking about her because she changed the rule book. She tore out pages from that dusty old book and she rewrote those rules. She changed the royal family forever. The ghost of Diana will always haunt the House of Windsor. She changed the rules for the women she'd never meet. She changed the rules for Catherine so that she would have a better life, a better passage. And whoever Harry marries, she changed the rules for her too.
She really is beautiful, isn't it?
So in a way, she's changing the rules for her children. Her children, William and Harry, are her legacy to the world. They will finish their mother's work. 36 years old, you don't expect your mother to die. Her untimely death catapulted those boys into the forefront of the royal family. They are the royal family's future.
Today, Prince William and Prince Harry honour their mother, Princess Diana, by continuing her humanitarian work and dedication to charitable causes. Both of Diana's children have championed mental health campaigns, advocated for social justice, and focused on key charity work concerning AIDS and homelessness.
When my mother held the hand of a man dying of AIDS in an East London hospital, no one would have imagined that just over a quarter of a century later, treatment would exist that could see HIV-positive people live full, healthy, loving lives.
One day we will see King William and Queen Catherine on the throne of England. And strangely enough, when William and Harry came to see me at Kensington Palace shortly after their mother died, I said to them, you must take something. Take something which belonged to her that you can keep safe. What do you want, William? I said. I'd like Mummy's Cartier watch, the one that Grandpa Spencer gave to her for her 21st birthday. Okay, I went to the safe and I got the watch. And what about you, Harry? What would you like? I remember, he said, when I held Mummy's hand when I was a small boy, that ring always hurt me because it's so big. Do you mean her engagement ring? Yes. So I went to the safe and gave Harry Diana's engagement ring. William told Harry that he was going to become engaged to Catherine. Harry said to him, wouldn't it be fitting if she had Mummy's ring? And then one day, that ring will be sat on the throne of England. So Harry gave up his precious treasure, his one thing he kept from his mother, he gave to his brother. That's selfless, kind, and exactly who Diana was.
One of the things our mother taught William and I was the value of doing good when no one is watching. She visited hospitals late at night to comfort patients. She spent hours writing letters to privately support the work of others. She achieved a lot by shining a spotlight, but she worked just as hard when the cameras were gone.
William and Harry remain dedicated to protecting Diana's memory. In recent years, they have openly condemned the media practices that contributed to her untimely death and challenged the erosion of boundaries between public and private life.
I would like to thank Lord Dyson and his team for the report. It is welcome that the BBC accepts Lord Dyson's findings in full, which are extremely concerning. That BBC employees lied and used fake documents to obtain the interview with my mother, made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia, displayed woeful incompetence when investigating complaints and concerns about the programme, and were evasive in their reporting to the media and covered up what they knew from their internal investigation. It is my view that the deceitful way the interview was obtained substantially influenced what my mother said. The interview was a major contribution to making my parents' relationship worse and has since hurt countless others. It brings indescribable sadness to know that the BBC's failures contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia, and isolation that I remember from those final years with her.
Through these actions, the two brothers have managed to gain some form of justice for the tragedy which occurred in 1997. The death of Diana marked a significant moment in history. It was more than the passing of a beloved public figure. It symbolized a shift in how the world viewed royalty and celebrity.
I've been allowed to share your thoughts and dreams, your disappointments and your happiness. My debt of gratitude to you all is immense.
Diana's legacy as the people's princess will no doubt live on forever.